who's actually going to get the most out of a heavy-duty submersible pump like the Tsurumi NK2 If you're a contractor who needs to keep a trench dry all day, a mine operation that has to move hundreds of gallons per minute, or a homeowner facing an unexpected basement flood, this might be the tool that saves you time and a lot of hassle. On the flip side, if you're only ever draining a small kiddie pool or a clogged sink, you'll probably spend far more than you need to. And for the everyday buyer wondering whether the price tag is justified, the answer really depends on how often you'll actually put the pump to work. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's start with the hesitation most people feel before they click Add to Cart. Submersible pumps sit in a niche where a wrong choice can mean a half-finished job, a burnt motor, or an outright flood. The market is crowded with cheap trash pumps that can handle a few gallons per minute, and there are industrial-grade units that cost a small fortune. The Tsurumi NK2 sits somewhere in the middle, promising 2 HP, 100 GPM, about 6,000 GPH, flow, a 3-inch discharge, and the ability to push water up a high head while resisting the grit that comes with construction sites. Those numbers look impressive on paper, but you have to ask, does the real-world performance live up to the hype, and is that performance necessary for you? First, think about the kind of water you'll be moving. In a typical construction dewatering scenario, you're pulling water out of a deep excavation that's constantly being refilled by groundwater. You need a pump that can maintain pressure against that head, otherwise the water will just rise back up as fast as you push it out. The NK2's high head rating means it can lift water well above the surface, which is why many contractors swear by Tsurumi when they're working on multi-story foundations. In a mining context, the same high head capability helps clear out pit water that's often loaded with sand and small rocks. Because the pump is built to be abrasion resistant, the internal impeller and seals hold up longer than a standard plasticased unit would when you're moving that kind of gritty slurry. If you're a homeowner, the most common scenario is a sudden flood after a heavy rainstorm. The NK2 can clear a flooded basement in a matter of hours, assuming you have a power source and a discharge hose that can handle the 3-inch flow. The pump's 2 HP motor can push a lot of water fast, and the fact that the internal terminal board lets you switch from 110V to 220V means you can adapt it to the voltage you have on site without buying a separate transformer. That flexibility is a real time saver if you're moving the pump between job sites that have different power setups. Now, let's talk about who should skip this pump. If you're only ever dealing with occasional, low-volume water removal, say, draining a bathtub, a small pond, or a garden irrigation line, a compact trash pump in the 1 HP range will do the job for a fraction of the price. Those smaller units are lighter, easier to store, and typically come with a shorter, more flexible power cord that can reach a standard outlet without extension. The NK2 weighs enough that you'll need a dolly or at least a strong pair of hands to get it in and out of the water, and its 3-inch discharge hose isn't exactly a quick plug accessory. You'll need a proper hose reel or a dedicated discharge pipe. If you're not prepared to handle that kind of setup, you'll likely spend more time wrestling the pump than actually pumping water. Practical strengths become clearer when you picture the pump in use. The high flow rate of 100 GPM means you can empty a 10,000 gallon pit in roughly an hour and a half, assuming the head isn't too extreme. That's a game changer on a job site where every minute of downtime costs money. The abrasion-resistant construction means you can run the pump continuously for days without worrying about the motor grinding down from sand or small stones, which is a common failure point on cheaper models. The UL and CSA certifications give you a safety net in regulated environments, and the 2-year warranty from Tsurumi provides a cushion if something does go wrong early on. On the downside, the NK2 isn't silent. At full throttle you'll hear a steady hum and a noticeable thrum, which is expected from a 2 HP motor working hard. If you plan to run it in a residential basement, you may need to consider the noise factor for anyone sleeping nearby. The pump also runs hot. The motor's cooling fins work fine, but you should give it a few minutes of cooldown after a prolonged run to avoid overheating. Another practical trade-off is the power requirement. While the internal board lets you switch voltages, you still need a dedicated 110V circuit that can handle the draw, or a 220V line if you're pulling maximum flow. Plugging it.